Garden Gate Wishes. An Alphabet Sweethearts Romance. Written by Susanne Ash. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 1. Rose. Come on, sweetie, I murmur, gently brushing soil around the base of a struggling basil plant. You can do this. Just need a little extra love, don't you? The leaves are still yellowing at the edges, but I refuse to give up on it. Every plant deserves a chance to thrive. The kitchen garden has become my sanctuary over the past few months. Even now, surrounded by the morning bustle of the community center, with kids racing to art class and the distant thrum of Hazel's memoir writing group, I feel centered. At peace. Until heavy footsteps and a sharp "where are the herbs" shatter my calm. I look up from my basil rescue mission to find a man glowering at me from the garden gate. He's tall, broad-shouldered, and radiating the kind of intensity that makes my fingers twitch for my sketchbook. Dark hair pushed back like he's been running frustrated hands through it. Eyes that remind me of storm clouds gathering over the mountains. Good morning. I brighten my smile, trying to counter his scowl. The herbs are everywhere, actually. Which ones are you looking for? Everything. He strides into my carefully tended space, scanning the beds with a critical eye that makes me want to step between him and my plants. Basil, thyme, oregano, his gaze lands on the yellowing plant I've been coaxing. That basil's half dead. It's recovering, I correct, resisting the urge to cover its leaves protectively. And you are? Daniel Hartman. Owner of Maison Hartman. I need fresh herbs for my restaurant. He says it like a challenge, like he's daring me to deny him. I was told the community center had a kitchen garden. Ah. The new chef everyone's been whispering about. The one Sarah from the diner says hasn't cracked a smile since he arrived in Juniper Falls. We do. I straighten, brushing dirt from my jeans. But it's a teaching garden. For the cooking classes and... Cooking classes? His laugh holds no humor. This town doesn't need cooking classes. It needs a decent restaurant that actually, he cuts himself off, jaw tightening. Look, I'll pay for the herbs. Money's not the issue. Though his dismissal of the classes stings, I keep my voice gentle. These herbs are for the community. But if you're interested, I'm starting a new series of classes next week. Farm-to-table cooking, actually. You could. I don't need classes. The storm in his eyes darkens. I need herbs that aren't wilted bags of disappointment from the grocery store. Then grow your own. The words slip out before I can stop them, but something about his attitude makes me want to push back. I could help you set up a kitchen garden at your place. It's not that hard once you. I don't have time to play in the dirt. He runs a hand through his hair, confirming my earlier guess about its dishevelment. I have a restaurant to save. Save? The word catches my attention, but before I can ask, he turns to leave. Thanks for nothing, he mutters. Wait. I grab my garden snips and move to the thriving herbs on the other side of the path. Take these. I quickly cut generous bundles of oregano, thyme, and healthy basil. A welcome to Juniper Falls gift. He stares at the herbs, then at me, like he's trying to decode some hidden agenda. I don't want. Everyone needs help sometimes, Mr. Hartman. I hold out the bundles. Even grumpy chefs who don't believe in cooking classes. For a moment, I think he'll refuse. But then his fingers brush mine as he takes the herbs, and something electric zips through me, catching my breath. Daniel, he says gruffly. Not Mr. Hartman. His eyes meet mine, and for a heartbeat, the storm in them clears. Then he's gone, leaving me with a yellowing basil plant, tingling fingers, and the unsettling feeling that my peaceful garden will never be quite the same. He's not exactly welcoming new customers with open arms, I say, arranging calendula flowers in tiny glass vases. It's Hazel's latest project to brighten up the community center's front desk. I stopped by his restaurant yesterday, and do you know what the special was? Beef bourguignon. In August? Hazel's eyebrows lift as she sorts through class registration forms. Exactly. The orange petals refuse to cooperate, just like a certain chef I can't stop thinking about. It's beautiful food, but it's all heavy French cuisine. Meanwhile, Sarah's serving BLTs with local tomatoes at the diner, and her place is packed. And you shared this observation with Daniel? I tried. The memory of his scowl makes me fumble a flower. He said, and I quote, "I didn't ask for your marketing advice." Sounds like someone's gotten under your skin. Hazel's knowing smile makes me wish I hadn't brought him up. Again. He's just so, I gesture with a calendula bloom, scattering petals. Frustrating. Talented, obviously. But frustrating. Talented and frustrating? Hazel's eyes twinkle. Reminds me of another chef I knew, years ago. Margaret Fletcher had quite the temper when she first opened the cafe, before she turned it into the general store. Hale's mother? I gather the scattered petals, trying to hide my blush. I didn't know she was a chef. Oh yes. Stubborn as they come. But she learned to adapt. Hazel pats my hand. Sometimes people just need a little nudge in the right direction. I'm not sure Daniel's interested in nudges. Or directions. Or people in general. But even as I say it, I remember the way his whole demeanor softened when he talked about his grandmother's cocoa vin recipe. I just hate watching him struggle when the community center's front door swings open, bringing with it a blast of August heat and the subject of our conversation. Delivery, Daniel announces, holding up a paper bag. Since you insisted on payment for the herbs. I didn't, I start, but he's already striding toward us. Cocoa vin hand pies, he says, setting the bag on the desk. Experiment with late summer vegetables. Probably a waste of time, but. You adapted your grandmother's recipe? The words slip out before I can stop them. He stills, those storm cloud eyes finding mine. How did you? You mentioned it. The other day. When you almost smiled, I don't add. Daniel Hartman, Hazel cuts in smoothly. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm Hazel Elliott. Would you like some tea? Rose was just telling me about your restaurant. Was she? His jaw tightens as he glances between us. Sharing her expert opinion on my failing business? Daniel. Don't. He steps back, runs a hand through his already disheveled hair. I don't need your pity. Or your herbs. Or your suggestions about cooking classes. It's not pity. I move around the desk, surprising myself as much as him. It's practical. You have this amazing talent, but no one knows about it because you're hidden away in that restaurant, cooking food that's too fancy for a casual Wednesday night. The classes would let people get to know you, try your food, see how passionate you are about. Passionate? He barks out a laugh. You don't know anything about me. I know you adapted your grandmother's recipe. I gesture at the bag. I know you're willing to experiment, even if you pretend you're not. And I know the community center has a brand new teaching kitchen that's barely being used, thanks to the renovation. Rose, Hazel says quietly, but there's approval in her tone. Daniel's shoulders remain tense, but something flickers in his expression. A teaching kitchen? State of the art. I take a chance, step closer. Waiting for the right instructor. I'm not a teacher. You taught me about herbs. When he scoffs, I press on. Last week, when you explained why flat-leaf parsley has more flavor than curly. Your whole face changed. Like you forgot to be grumpy for a minute. I'm not, he stops, and for a moment, I glimpse uncertainty beneath the frustration. One class? One class, I agree quickly. We'll start small. Simple. Something seasonal. He eyes the bag of hand pies. Late summer vegetables? Perfect. Hope bubbles up in my chest. And maybe we could incorporate some herbs from the garden. Don't push it. But there's less bite in his voice. He turns to leave, then pauses. Saturday morning. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. After he's gone, Hazel picks up the bag, inhaling appreciatively. Well, she says, I'd say that was quite a nudge. I have no idea what I'm doing, I admit, sinking into a chair. He's so talented and frustrating? I was going to say intense. MMM. Hazel breaks a hand pie in half, releasing a waft of savory herbs. You know, dear, sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow in unexpected places. She offers me the other half. Even if they need a little extra tending at first. I take the pie, trying to ignore the way my chest warms at her words. You're impossible. So I've been told. She smiles. Usually right before I'm proven right. I bite into the pie to avoid responding. The pastry is perfectly flaky, the filling a delicate balance of fresh vegetables and herbs, including, I notice with a start, basil from my garden. Oh dear, Hazel says softly. What? Nothing. She pats my hand again. Just thinking how interesting the next few weeks are going to be. I look down at the half-eaten pie, remembering the way Daniel's eyes sparked when I mentioned the teaching kitchen. The way his gruff exterior cracked, just for a moment. Interesting might be an understatement.
Chapter 2. Daniel. You're early, I say as Rose breezes into the community center's teaching kitchen, carrying what appears to be half her garden. Good morning to you too. She sets her basket on the prep counter, unfazed by my tone. I thought we could use some fresh herbs for the class displays. Though I see you've already raided the garden. She's noticed the herbs I cut at dawn, carefully stored in water glasses along the window. I'd arrived early, telling myself it was to familiarize myself with the space. Not because I couldn't sleep thinking about this ridiculous idea. Those are for the demonstration. Of course. Her lips quirk like she's holding back a smile. Have you decided what we're making for the class? I turn back to the prep list I've rewritten 4 times. Hand pies. When she doesn't immediately respond, I look up. Problem? No, just. She tucks a strand of auburn hair behind her ear, drawing my attention to the light dusting of freckles across her nose. I like that you're sticking with what worked. It's practical. I don't mention that I spent half the night testing different variations at Maison Hartman, trying to make them foolproof enough for beginners. Quick enough to finish in a 2-hour class. Uses seasonal ingredients. And they were delicious. Something in her voice makes me pause. When I glance over, she's sorting through her herbs with careful attention, a hint of pink in her cheeks. You tried them? Hazel and I shared. She pulls out a sprig of thyme, twirling it between her fingers. The way you balanced the herbs with the summer vegetables, it was perfect. Perfect. The word hits like a physical thing, stirring memories of culinary school instructors who never used it, of reviews that always found something lacking in Maison Hartman's classical French menu. I grunt and return to my list. This kitchen really is nice, she continues, apparently immune to my lack of engagement. The renovation turned out beautifully. Though it could use a little color. Maybe some potted herbs in the windows? It's a teaching kitchen, not a garden center. Everything's better with a little green. She starts humming as she arranges herbs in mason jars, some tune that sounds vaguely familiar. Oh! I almost forgot. I made name tags for everyone. And little recipe cards with spaces for notes. Of course she did. You really don't have to. I know. She sets a jar of basil in the window, adjusting it until she's satisfied. Sunlight catches her hair, turning it to burnished copper. I wanted to. Teaching's more fun when you make it special. This isn't supposed to be fun. The words come out sharper than intended. It's a last resort because my restaurant is failing and apparently this town prefers BLTs to classical French cuisine. Her humming stops. When I look up, she's watching me with those warm brown eyes that see too much. Daniel. She says my name softly, like it's something breakable. It's not failing. It's adjusting. There's a difference. Tell that to my bank account. Okay. She moves closer, and suddenly my kitchen feels too small. When's the last time you actually enjoyed cooking something? Not for critics or customers or perfect reviews. Just cooking. The hand pies, I think immediately. Testing variations in the quiet kitchen, remembering my grandmother's hands showing me how to crimp the edges just so. But I'm not telling her that. We should set up the workspace, I say instead. Class starts in an hour. You didn't answer my question. You ask too many questions. She laughs, the sound echoing off my stainless steel appliances, softening their hard edges. And you deflect too much. But don't worry. She pats my arm as she passes, leaving a ghost of warmth through my chef's coat. We'll work on that. We're not working on anything. But even I can hear the lack of conviction in my voice. This is one class. That's it. She's humming again as she sets up the name tags, arranging them in a neat arc. Whatever you say, chef. I should correct her. Should make it clear that this is a business arrangement, nothing more. That her sunshine optimism has no place in my kitchen. Instead, I find myself watching as she transforms the sterile teaching space with herbs and name tags and an enthusiasm I'd forgotten could exist in a kitchen. She's humming that tune again. Something about gardens growing, I realize. And for just a moment, I let myself wonder what it might be like to see my restaurant through her eyes. To see anything through her eyes. The basil's crooked, I say gruffly, turning back to my prep list. Her laugh follows me, bright as the morning sun streaming through my windows. Good thing you're here to fix it then. Good thing. Right. I press my pencil harder against the paper, trying to ignore how the scent of herbs and sunshine has replaced the usual morning smell of coffee and anxiety. One class. That's all this is. So why does it feel like so much more? That's not how you chop an onion. The words escape before I can stop them. The woman at Station 3, Linda? Lisa, jumps like I've shouted, though I'm certain I used my indoor voice. I'm sorry, Here. I reach for a knife, then catch Rose's pointed look from across the kitchen. Right. Let them do it themselves. Keep your fingers tucked under. Like a claw. A claw? Lisa's eyes widen. To prevent cutting yourself. I demonstrate with my own hands, hovering over her cutting board. Grip the knife properly and think of it like making a bridge with your fingers. Rose cuts in, appearing at my side. Her shoulder brushes mine as she demonstrates. See? Your fingertips are safe under the bridge, and the knife stays steady on top. Lisa's face brightens. Oh! That makes sense. She mimics Rose's position perfectly. Good job, Linda! Rose beams like the woman just executed a perfect souffle instead of managing basic knife skills. I bite back a comment about how they're all treating this like some sort of social hour instead of a cooking class. 5 participants, all chattering away while they massacre perfectly good vegetables. And Rose, floating between them with endless encouragement and sunny smiles. Remember, I say loudly, the onions need to be uniform size or they won't cook evenly. But no pressure. Rose adds. We're all learning together. I glance heavenward. Professional kitchens don't have room for. Good thing we're not in a professional kitchen. Rose's voice is sweet, but her eyes hold a warning. We're here to have fun and learn something new. Right, everyone? A chorus of agreement ripples through the room. Even George, the retired accountant who spent 10 minutes arguing about the proper ratio of herbs in the filling, nods along. Fun doesn't produce consistent results, I mutter. Rose hip checks me gently as she reaches for more parchment paper. No, but it makes people want to keep trying until they get it right. I watch as Linda transforms her hesitant knife work into something almost competent, encouraged by Rose's ongoing stream of praise. Down the counter, George has finally stopped obsessing over measurements and is actually cooking, drawn into conversation with his station partner about farmers markets. Chef Hartman? The quiet voice belongs to Susan, the young mother who arrived looking terrified. Is this right? I moved to her station, expecting disaster. But her onions are nearly perfect. Precise, even pieces laid out in tidy rows. Yes, I say, surprised. Actually, this is exactly right. Her entire face lights up. See? Rose whispers as she passes behind me. A little encouragement goes a long way. I grunt, but find myself adding, good knife control. Keep that rhythm and you'll build speed naturally. Susan's smile grows impossibly wider. The rest of the class passes in a blur of Rose's laughter, my barely contained critiques, and the gradually improving chaos of 5 amateur cooks discovering that maybe they can make something worth eating. When George presents his finished hand pies with pride rather than obsession over their imperfect crimping, I catch myself almost smiling. That wasn't so bad, was it? Rose asks as we clean up after, her arms full of fresh herbs she's bundling for everyone to take home. They barely achieved the basics. But they're excited to come back next week. I nearly dropped the sheet pan I'm washing. Next week? Oh, didn't I mention? She blinks innocently. They all signed up for the full series. For more classes. Rose. They like you, you know. She starts humming that garden tune again, tying twine around a bundle of thyme. Even with the scowling. I don't scowl. She holds out a bunch of basil. Here. For Maison Hartman. Since you used all your herbs on test pies last night. I stare at her. How did you? You've got flour in your hair. She gestures to what I'm sure is evidence of my late night practice session. And you have that look my sister gets when she's been up all night practicing new cake designs. I was being thorough. You were being caring. She sets the basil on the counter between us. Even if you don't want anyone to know it. The truth of her words sits uncomfortable in my chest. I reach for the herbs, needing something to do with my hands. The next class will be even better. Her smile holds the same warmth she's been radiating all morning. Especially once you learn their names. I know their names, I lie. Really? What's Linda's last name? I scowl. That's not. Her laugh cuts me off. Don't worry. I made more name tags for next week. She heads for the door, then pauses. You know what else I noticed? I'm sure you'll tell me. You stopped checking your phone for restaurant reviews halfway through class. She tilts her head, considering me. Almost like you were too busy actually enjoying yourself to worry about being perfect. She's gone before I can argue, leaving behind the scent of herbs and the unsettling feeling that she's right. Again. I look down at the basil in my hands, remembering the way Susan's face lit up at a simple word of praise. The way George's obsession with precision melted under Rose's gentle teasing. The way the knot in my chest loosened, just a little, watching people learn to love what I've always loved. Darn it, I muttered to the empty kitchen. She's going to be insufferable about this.
Chapter 3. Rose. Smile and hand them the samples, I say, arranging the last mini hand pie on our display. You don't even have to talk. Daniel's scowl deepens. I don't smile on command. Really? I hadn't noticed. I straighten the chalkboard sign I spent way too long decorating last night. Joined Chef Daniel Hartman for farm-to-table cooking classes curves across the top in my best handwriting, with cheerful vegetables sketched in the corners. This is ridiculous. He tugs at his chef's coat. I'd insisted he wear it. Nobody at a farmer's market wants cooking classes. As if to prove him wrong, Ellen from my garden club approaches our booth. Rose. Are these the famous hand pies everyone's been talking about? Famous might be an overstatement, Daniel mutters. I elbow him gently. Chef Hartman would love to tell you about them. Wouldn't you, Daniel? He shoots me a look that promises revenge, but turns to Ellen. They're made with local vegetables and herbs from the community center garden. From Rose's garden? Ellen beams. Oh, how wonderful. You two must work so well together. Daniel chokes slightly. I bite my lip to hold back a laugh. The classes are a collaboration, I say diplomatically. Would you like to try a sample? The morning flows like honey after that, sweet and surprisingly smooth. Daniel may not smile on command, but his passion sneaks through whenever someone asks about technique or ingredients. I catch him actually gesturing as he explains laminated dough to a cluster of interested listeners. You're good at this, he grudgingly admits during a quiet moment. The people thing. The people thing? I hide my smile by rearranging our dwindling samples. You mean basic human interaction? Whatever you want to call it. He watches as I chat with another customer, then adds quietly, they trust you. Something in his voice makes me turn. They'd trust you too, if you let them. I'm not, he stops as a young couple approaches, asking about his restaurant. By noon, we've handed out all our samples and filled every spot in the next 3 cooking classes. I'm packing up our display when Daniel reaches for the same box I'm grabbing. His fingers brush mine, and that spark I've been trying to ignore zips through me again. Sorry, he says gruffly, pulling back. No, I fumble the box, sending recipe cards scattering across our booth. We both kneel to gather them, and I'm suddenly very aware of how close he is, how he smells like herbs and butter and something uniquely him. A lock of dark hair falls across his forehead, and my fingers itch to brush it back. Stop it, I scold myself. This is business. Community service. Nothing more. You've got. He gestures vaguely at my face. What? I touch my cheek self-consciously. Flour. His lips twist in what might be the ghost of a smile. Hazard of handling all those recipe cards, I guess. Says the man who showed up to class with flour in his hair. The words slip out before I can stop them. Surprise flashes in his eyes, and for a moment I think he might actually smile. Then someone calls his name from across the market, and the moment shatters. I should go. He stands abruptly, hands me the scattered cards. The restaurant. Of course. I tuck the cards away, ignoring the lingering warmth where our fingers touched. Thanks for today. I know it wasn't your idea of fun. He pauses, then says quietly, it wasn't terrible. Coming from Daniel Hartman, that's practically a rave review. I watch him stride away through the market, stopping briefly to speak with Sarah from the diner. Even from here, I can see how his shoulders stay tight, his posture guarded. But there's something different about him too, something that reminds me of my struggling basil plant, reaching for the sun, even if it doesn't quite trust it yet. Oh dear, I mumble, echoing Hazel's words from the other day. This could be trouble. But as I finish packing up our booth, I catch myself humming that old song about gardens growing in unexpected places, and I can't quite convince myself that trouble is always a bad thing. That's not a weed. I catch Daniel's wrist just before he yanks out a volunteer tomato plant. His skin is warm under my fingers, and I pull back quickly. It's a gift. It's growing where it doesn't belong. But he sits back on his heels, studying the tiny plant with surprising intensity. I hadn't really expected him to say yes when I asked for help in the garden. But after the farmer's market, after watching him slowly let his walls down with each sample he handed out, I'd felt brave enough to try. Sometimes the best things grow in unexpected places. I rescue another tomato seedling from his ruthless efficiency. Like these little ones. They volunteered themselves, probably from birds dropping seeds. Most gardeners would pull them, but I like to see where they end up. That's not very practical. Neither is refusing to serve BLTs in August, but here we are. He makes that sound that might be almost a laugh. You're never going to let that go, are you? Nope. I pull a real weed, adding it to our growing pile. Just like you're never going to admit you enjoyed the farmer's market. I tolerated the farmer's market. I sneak a glance at him, expecting the usual scowl. Instead, I find him gently loosening the soil around one of the volunteer tomatoes. what are you doing? If it's staying, it needs room to grow. He doesn't look up, focused on not disturbing the delicate roots. The soil's too compacted here. Something warm unfurls in my chest. Chef Hartman, are you nurturing a volunteer plant? I'm being practical. But his touch remains gentle. If you're keeping it, it should at least have a fighting chance. The evening sun catches his profile, softening his sharp edges. A smudge of dirt marks his cheek, and that stubborn lock of hair has fallen across his forehead again. My fingers twitch with the urge to brush it back. What? He asks, catching me staring. Nothing. I turn back to my weeding, cheeks warm. Just surprised to see you bonding with an impractical plant. I'm not bonding. I'm being practical. Right. I shift to reach another weed and my knee brushes his. Neither of us moves away. You know, for someone who claims to hate playing in the dirt, you seem to know what you're doing. He's quiet for a moment, continuing to work on the soil. My grandmother had a garden, he finally says. Behind the restaurant. Grew all her own herbs. The first Maison Hartman? Before it was Maison Hartman. When it was just her little cafe. His voice softens with memory. She used to say a kitchen without fresh herbs was like. He stops, shakes his head. Never mind. Like what? I hold my breath, afraid to break this moment of openness. Like a garden without volunteers. He glances at the tiny tomato plant. Something about the joy of unexpected growth. The warmth in my chest spreads. I want to stay here, knees touching in the dirt, listening to him talk about his grandmother's garden. Want to ask about the cafe, about what made him change it to fine dining, about all the things he keeps locked behind that careful scowl. Instead, I say lightly, she sounds wise. She was. He sits back, surveying our work. In the fading light, his eyes look almost soft. The garden's not terrible. High praise. I smile even as my heart does something complicated. Next thing you know, you'll be volunteering to help with the herb beds. Don't push it. But there's no bite in his words. He stands, brushing dirt from his knees, and offers me a hand up. I take it, trying to ignore how perfectly my hand fits in his, how natural it feels when he steadies me as I stumble slightly. For a moment we're close enough that I can see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes, count the faint smile lines that suggest he didn't always scowl. Don't, I tell my foolish heart. Don't make this more than it is. Thanks, I manage, stepping back. For helping. And for not murdering all the volunteers. Thanks for. He pauses, and I hold my breath again. But whatever he was going to say disappears behind his usual reserve. The soil really was compacted. You should work on that. I watch him walk away, trying to convince myself that the ache in my chest is just from too much weeding. That I'm not falling for a grumpy chef who's probably counting the days until our classes end.
Chapter 4. Daniel. Remember to let the dough rest, I tell the class, trying not to notice how Rose perches on the counter near Susan's station, legs swinging slightly as she demonstrates the proper way to roll herbs. 10 minutes minimum. Enough time for gossip, Rose stage whispers, making Susan giggle. I press my lips together. She's been like this all morning. Bright, distracting, impossible to ignore. Her auburn hair is caught up in some kind of messy knot, secured with what appears to be a spare pencil. Every time she moves, a strand escapes. Chef Hartman? George peers at his dough. Is this the right consistency? I welcome the distraction, moving to his station. But even as I explain the importance of proper butter distribution, I catch myself tracking Rose's movements around the kitchen. The way she touches people's shoulders when she encourages them. The way her whole face crinkles when she laughs at Linda's story about her grandson. Much better, I tell George, who's actually becoming decent at this. Just remember. A little less thinking, a little more feeling, Rose cuts in, appearing at my elbow. Right, chef? The class laughs. Even George cracks a smile. The proper technique requires focus, I say stiffly. Oh, I don't know. Rose leans past me to check George's dough, and the scent of herbs and sunshine fills my space. You seemed pretty focused in the garden yesterday, but that didn't stop you from feeling your way through it. My chest tightens at the memory. Her knee brushing mine, the way she'd looked in the evening light. That was different. Was it? She tilts her head, studying me with those warm eyes. Cooking, gardening, it's all about nurturing something, isn't it? About trust and patience in. It's about precision, I snap. About doing things properly instead of just hoping sunshine and good intentions will somehow make everything work out. The kitchen goes quiet. Rose's smile falters, and something in my chest cracks at the hurt that flashes across her face. Rose, You're right. Her voice is soft, but not the gentle sort of soft I've grown accustomed to. Precision is important. Excuse me, I need to check on the herbs. She slips away before I can say anything else. The class watches her go, then turns back to their stations with pointed focus. Nice going, chef, Linda mutters. I deserve that. Deserve the way Susan pointedly turns her back on me, the way George suddenly finds his dough fascinating. But mostly I deserve the careful distance Rose keeps for the rest of class, her sunshine dimmed to something polite and professional. When everyone starts cleaning up, she begins gathering her things. You're not staying? The words come out more desperate than I intend. Usually we clean up together, falling into an easy rhythm that I've grown to. I should check on the garden. She won't quite meet my eyes. Make sure those volunteer tomatoes are settling in. Rose. It's fine. She attempts a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. You're right. Not everything works out just because we want it to. She's gone before I can tell her that's not what I meant at all. That watching her with the class makes me feel things I can't control. That her sunshine scares me because it makes me want to believe in second chances and volunteer tomatoes and possibilities I gave up on long ago. You know, George says as he packs up his perfectly executed pastries, for someone who insists on precision, you really missed the mark there. I stare at the herbs Rose left behind, still arranged in the mason jars she brings to every class. Still reaching toward the light, even when the sun's gone. Yes, I manage. I really did. I find her in the garden, kneeling beside the volunteer tomatoes. She's removed the pencil from her hair, and it falls in waves around her face as she works. The late afternoon sun catches the auburn strands, turning them to copper and gold. They're growing, I say, because I can't find the right words to tell her how much I miss her beautiful smile. Or talking to her. And there's no way I'm admitting that I can't stop thinking about Rose Delaney. Plants do that. Her voice lacks its usual warmth. Even imprecise ones. I deserve that. Rose. If you're here to critique my gardening technique. I had a full house last night. The words tumble out. First time since I opened. Linda brought her whole family. Susan came with her kids. Even George showed up with his wife. She stills, fingers buried in the soil. That's wonderful. They ordered hand pies. Asked about the herbs. I moved closer, watching her back straighten. Wanted to know when the next cooking class is. Sarah from the diner even asked if I'd consider doing a special guest dinner there. Daniel. You were right. Another step. About all of it. The classes, the farmer's market. About letting people in. I swallow hard. About me. She sits back on her heels but doesn't turn. I'm just trying to help. I know. And I run a hand through my hair, struggling to find the right words. I'm not good at accepting help. Or admitting when I'm wrong. Or dealing with people who make me feel. Now she does turn, eyes questioning. Feel what? Everything. Too much. Not enough. Terrified and hopeful and completely undone. Tell me about the burnout, I say instead. Her eyes widen. What? You mentioned it once. About leading your corporate job. I gesture to the space beside her. Can I? She nods, and I sink down next to her, close enough to catch the scent of soil and herbs that clings to her skin. A bee hums past, investigating the lavender she planted last week. It wasn't dramatic, she says after a moment. I didn't have some big breakdown. I just stopped feeling anything. Stopped seeing colors, basically. Everything was gray. Work, food, life. Her fingers trail through the soil. I was so focused on being perfect, on meeting everyone's expectations, that I forgot how to be. The weight of her words settles in my chest. What changed? I came home. Started helping in the community garden. And one day I was covered in dirt, sweating, probably looking completely unprofessional, and I realized I was happy. Really happy, for the first time in years. Because of gardening? Because I stopped trying to be perfect. She looks at me then, really looks at me. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow from chaos, Daniel. From letting go of control and feeling your way through. Her words hit too close to home. Is that what you think I'm doing? Trying to be perfect? She bites her lip, considering. I think you're trying so hard to live up to some ideal of what your restaurant should be that you've forgotten why you fell in love with cooking in the first place. You don't know that. Don't I? Her voice is gentle. I've seen you in class, Daniel. When you forget to be Chef Hartman, when you're just showing someone how to crimp a pie crust or blend herbs you light up. Like I did that day in the garden. Something shifts in my chest. Before I can stop myself, I reach out and brush back the strand of hair that's been taunting me all morning. Her breath catches. I'm sorry, I say softly. About what I said in class. You deserve better than my sharp edges and defensive walls. Daniel. My name on her lips sounds like hope. Maybe I like your edges. She's so close. Close enough that I can see the golden flecks in her brown eyes, count the freckles dusting her nose. Close enough that it would take nothing to lean in, to finally discover if she tastes like sunshine. Her eyes drift to my mouth, and I sway forward. My hand slides into her hair, feeling its silk against my palm. Her fingers curl into my shirt. A door slams somewhere in the community center. We jerk apart as voices drift toward the garden. The moment shatters like delicate pottery dropped on kitchen tile. I should check on. Rose gestures vaguely toward the building, cheeks flushed. A smudge of dirt marks her cheek where my hand had been. Yes. I stand quickly, offering her a hand up. When she takes it, that same spark zips through me, making me wonder if this is what her herbs feel when they finally break through the soil, reaching for light. I need to get to the restaurant anyway. Dinner service. Right. Of course. We hover awkwardly, neither quite ready to let go. The voices grow closer, but still we stand, hands linked, surrounded by growing things. The tomatoes look good, I say finally, releasing her hand. All they needed was a chance. Her smile returns, softer now. Warmer. Sometimes we all do. I watch her head inside, my hand still tingling from her touch. The volunteer tomatoes reach toward the sun, growing exactly how and where they want, precision be damned. From the kitchen window, I can see the herbs she planted, thriving despite my initial resistance. Like the regulars at my restaurant, who now greet me by name. Like the cooking class students, who no longer flinch at my corrections. For the first time in years, I let myself wonder if maybe perfection isn't the goal at all. If maybe there's something better in the messy, unplanned moments. Like volunteer tomatoes and community gardens, and the way Rose's smile makes me forget every careful wall I've built.
Chapter 5. Rose. These need dividing, I tell myself, and the lavender plants, which absolutely do not need it. But I've been finding unnecessary garden tasks all week, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off. Rose. My trowel slips, nearly decimating an innocent marigold. I don't turn around. I know that voice, know the way it makes my heart stumble even when I'm trying so hard to be sensible. The garden's closed, I say, proud of how steady I sound. There's a sign. Since when do you close a garden? Daniel's footsteps draw closer. Besides, I brought reinforcements. Curiosity wins. I glance over my shoulder to find him holding 2 takeout cups from Novel Sips. Maggie said this is your usual, he adds, offering one. Some kind of herbal tea with lavender and honey. The words catch in my throat. He remembered that I liked tea. From that first morning in the garden, when I'd mentioned it while tending the herbs. I can leave it here, he says quietly. If you really want me to go. I sit back on my heels, finally letting myself really look at him. He's still in his chef's coat, a smudge of what might be ground mustard on one sleeve. His hair is disheveled, like he's been running his hands through it. But it's his eyes that undo me, storm clouds heavy with things unsaid. You should be at the restaurant, I manage. Probably. He sets the tea beside me. But I keep reaching for herbs that aren't there. I'm sure the grocery store. That's not what I mean. He moves to sit on the garden bench, close enough that I can smell hints of butter and vanilla. I miss more than herbs. I keep turning to share recipe ideas with someone who isn't there. Keep catching myself saving the best tomatoes for your inspection. Keep. He runs a hand through his hair. Keep missing you. My heart thuds painfully. Daniel. I know I messed up. In the garden. After class. His voice roughens. I shouldn't have pulled away. Shouldn't have let you think. It's fine. I focus on my tea, on the warmth seeping through the cup. We got caught up in a moment. It happens. Is that what you think it was? What else could it be? The words taste bitter, despite the honey in my tea. You're focused on your restaurant. I'm trying not to lose myself again. He's quiet for a moment. Tell me what that means. It means. I set down my cup, needing my hands free to explain. In my corporate job, I poured everything into trying to be what everyone needed. Perfect employee, perfect teammate, perfect everything. Until there was nothing left of me. My fingers find a stray leaf to shred. I can't do that again. And you think that's what would happen? With me? The hurt in his voice makes me look up. He's leaning forward, elbows on his knees, watching me with an intensity that steals my breath. I swallow hard. I think you have enough perfectionism for both of us. Yeah. He scrubs a hand over his face. I do. But Rose. He moves from the bench to kneel beside me in the dirt, heedless of his chef's whites. You make me want to be less perfect. A startled laugh escapes me. That might be the strangest compliment I've ever received. I'm serious. His lips quirk. You and your volunteer tomatoes and your ability to see beauty in chaos. You make me remember what it felt like before everything had to be precise. When cooking was about joy, not about the bottom line or the next 5-star review. Daniel. I'm not asking for perfect. He reaches for my hand, and I let him take it. I'm asking for a chance. For both of us. I stare at our joined hands, dirt under my nails, flour on his sleeve. I'm scared, I whisper. Of what? Of falling too hard. Of losing myself in someone else's dreams again. I meet his eyes. Of how much I want to kiss you right now. His breath catches. Rose. But I'm more scared of not trying. The truth of it fills my chest. Of always wondering what might have grown here. He lifts our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that makes me shiver. So we'll be scared together? Together, I agree softly. Daniel? If you ever tell me I'm being too imprecise with the herbs again. His laugh, real and warm and completely imperfect, fills the garden. Noted. He tugs me closer, until I can count the laugh lines around his eyes. Though I maintain that your basil arrangement techniques are questionable at best. Funny, I murmur, sliding my free hand into his hair. I was just thinking how imprecisely you've knotted your apron. Terrible form, he agrees, and then he's kissing me, tasting of coffee and possibilities, and I'm falling into all the beautifully imperfect moments yet to come. You didn't tell me, I say, watching Daniel plate another serving of herb-crusted salmon. The community center's dining room buzzes with conversation and laughter, strings of cafe lights turning everything soft and golden. Tell you what? He adds a sprig of my flowering thyme as garnish, the tiny purple blooms perfect against the coral flesh. Bet you were planning this. When you asked for those specific herbs this morning, I thought you were testing a new special for Maison Hartman. His lips quirk. Actually, I was testing this. He glances up, catching my eye. I wanted it to be perfect for tonight. Using the herbs from the garden that started all this. Daniel. Hazel asked if I'd cater the community dinner. He glances up, catching my eye. It only seemed fitting to use the herbs from the garden that started all this. The way he says all this makes my cheeks warm. 2 days since our kiss in the garden, and I still catch myself touching my lips, remembering. Chef Hartman. Sarah from the diner waves from the serving line. We need more of that amazing sauce. Duty calls. He straightens, then surprises me by dropping a quick kiss on my temple. Try to stop rearranging the garnish while I'm gone? I would never. But we both know I've been tweaking his precise arrangements all evening, adding my own artistic chaos to his careful designs. I watch him stride toward the kitchen, pausing to chat with guests as he goes. He's still not exactly effusive, but there's an ease to his movements now, a softness around his edges that makes people lean in instead of away. Well. Hazel appears at my elbow. I see someone's finally learning to bloom where he's planted. Did you plan this? I ask, though I already know the answer. Asking him to cater? Me? Her innocence wouldn't fool a kindergartner. I simply mentioned that our usual caterer was unavailable. And that the garden had such lovely herbs this time of year. Impossible woman. So I've been told. She pats my hand. Usually right before. You're proven right. I know. I can't help smiling. But this feels different. Different how? I think about Daniel's kiss in the garden, the way he'd held me like I was precious but not fragile. The way he's been showing up every morning to help water the herbs before heading to his restaurant, grumbling about my haphazard organization while carefully tending each plant. Like we're both growing, I say finally. In our own ways, but together. Hazel's eyes twinkle. You might want to tell him that. Tell me what? Daniel reappears with a fresh container of sauce, close enough that his arm brushes mine. Nothing. I reach up to straighten his collar, letting my fingers linger. Just admiring your garnishing technique. Liar. But his eyes are warm. You've been rearranging them again, haven't you? I have no idea what you're talking about. Hazel slips away, leaving us in our little bubble of warmth and teasing. The lights cast Daniel in gold, softening his sharp angles, and suddenly I'm overwhelmed by how much I want this, want him, want all the perfectly imperfect moments we might create together. Daniel? Thank you. For doing this. I gesture to the room, the happy faces, the plates that combine his precision with my wild herbs. For letting your walls down a little. He sets down the sauce container and turns to face me fully. Around us, the dinner continues, but all I can see is the way he's looking at me, like I'm something rare and wonderful growing in unexpected soil. Rose. My name in his voice still makes me shiver. You make me want to tear down every wall I've ever built. Then he's kissing me, right there in the middle of the community dinner, tasting of herbs and possibility. His hands frame my face with chef's precision, but there's nothing careful about the way he pulls me closer, about the soft sound he makes when I wind my arms around his neck. Someone whistles and there's scattered applause, but I barely notice. All I can focus on is the way Daniel's smile feels against my lips, the way his heart thunders under my palms. The sauce is going to get cold, I murmur when we finally part. Don't care. He presses his forehead to mine. Though George will probably dock points for imprecise temperature control. I laugh, and he steals the sound with another quick kiss before reluctantly stepping back. But he keeps hold of my hand, our fingers intertwined as we turn to face our grinning audience. Well, Hazel says loudly, I suppose that takes care of dessert. Later, as we clean up, I catch Daniel humming my garden song as he carefully wraps leftover herbs. When he notices me watching, he doesn't stop. Instead, he pulls me into a dance, right there between the serving stations, his voice rough and perfect in my ear. In unexpected places, love grows wild and free.
Chapter 6. Daniel. That's not how you julienne carrots. The words come out of habit, but there's no bite to them. Not when Rose is humming in my kitchen, hair escaping its messy bun as she deliberately cuts each carrot into imperfect strips. Technically it's the community center's kitchen, but it's starting to feel like home. Really? She holds up a particularly uneven piece. Because I thought I was doing it exactly how you showed me. I'm fighting a smile as I move behind her, covering her hands with mine. Here. Like this. She leans back against my chest, and the scent of herbs and sunshine fills my senses. I don't know. Your way seems awfully precise. Where's the artistic flair? Artistic flair doesn't matter if the carrots cook unevenly. Says you. But she lets me guide her hands, our movements falling into an easy rhythm. Though I suppose you are the expert. Even if you did put lavender in the scones. You're the one who suggested experimenting with the herbs. Yes, but I meant, she breaks off as I press a kiss to that spot behind her ear that I discovered makes her breath catch. That's cheating. That's strategy. I reluctantly step back before I forget why we're here. The scones were good. They were. She turns to face me, hip propped against the counter. Almost like you're learning to trust your instincts instead of just following rules. Something warm unfurls in my chest. Maybe I had a good teacher. Hazel will be thrilled to hear that. Funny. I reach for her, pulling her close again. Speaking of Hazel, she mentioned the community center's planning a harvest festival next month. Rose's eyes light up. Already? But it's barely, oh. Understanding dawns. You have an idea. Maybe. I try for casual, but my heart is racing. I was thinking about combining the cooking classes with the festival. Setting up stations where people can learn different techniques, try new flavors. Daniel. Her smile could power the whole kitchen. That's perfect. It's just an idea. It's brilliant. She winds her arms around my neck. And completely different from the fancy French cuisine you were so sure everyone wanted. Well, I rest my forehead against hers. Someone recently suggested that sometimes the best things grow in unexpected places. Sounds wise, this person. She has her moments. I brush my thumb across her cheek, catching a smudge of flour. When she's not destroying perfectly good carrots. Her laugh fills the kitchen, bright and unconstrained. You know what else this wise person thinks? That I should let you reorganize my entire spice rack? Well, yes, but also. She kisses me softly. That you seem happy. The word settles in my chest, fitting into place like a missing ingredient I didn't know I needed. I am. And it's true. The restaurant's numbers are steadily climbing. Last night, I'd caught myself experimenting with the menu again, combining classical techniques with local flavors in ways that would have horrified my culinary school instructors. And this morning I'd woken up actually excited to cook. Not to prove anything, not to chase perfection, but simply to create something with the woman who'd somehow turned my carefully ordered world deliciously, wonderfully messy. You're thinking too hard again, Rose murmurs, pressing another kiss to the corner of my mouth. Actually, I pull back enough to see her face. I was thinking about adding a garden at the restaurant. Her eyes widen. Really? Nothing fancy. Just some herbs, maybe some seasonal vegetables. I try to sound casual, but my pulse betrays me. I might need help though. Someone who knows about growing things in unexpected places. Someone who can teach you to embrace a little chaos. Exactly. I tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. Know anyone qualified? Her smile turns mischievous. I might. Though I should warn you. She's very particular about her herbs. Funny, I'm very particular about my knife skills. She reaches past me for a carrot. Want to make a deal? I'll learn to julienne properly if you let me plant volunteer tomatoes. I catch her hand before she can massacre any more vegetables. Counter offer. I'll consider the tomatoes if you promise to stop reorganizing my mise en place. Counter offer. Her eyes sparkle. I'll respect your mise en place if you admit you like my garden song. Now you're just being ridiculous. But later, as we work side by side, her perfectly imperfect carrots beside my precise ones, I find myself humming that tune about gardens growing in unexpected places. And when she smiles, bright enough to rival the morning sun streaming through the windows, I think maybe this is what hope feels like. Not the careful pursuit of perfection, but the wild, wonderful joy of growing something new together. Orders are backing up. Mark, my usually unflappable sous chef, calls over the chaos of the Friday night rush. And Table 12 wants to speak with you about the herb menu. 6 weeks ago, those words would have sent me into a spiral of perfectionist panic. Now, I glance across my kitchen to where Rose is adding edible flowers to the summer vegetable tart. Her latest delivery from the community center's garden has transformed our plating into something customers can't seem to get enough of. I'll handle 12, I tell Mark. Rose? She looks up, cheeks flushed from the kitchen heat. Fresh herbs are prepped for the next round. Though I still think the nasturtiums would look prettier scattered instead of. Don't push it. But I catch her hand as I pass, pressing a quick kiss to her knuckles. Her smile hits me like summer sunshine. The dining room of Maison Hartman holds none of its former stuffy formality. The white tablecloths remain, but now they're adorned with small vases of fresh herbs from Rose's garden. The heavy curtains have been drawn back, letting in the evening light. And the menu. Chef Hartman. Table 12 turns out to be Catherine Wells, the food critic whose last review nearly crushed my spirit. This is unexpected. I brace myself, but when I meet her eyes, I find genuine curiosity rather than criticism. We're working with fresh herbs from the community center's garden, I explain, noticing she's cleared every bite of the herb-crusted salmon. It's covered in Rose's carefully tended herbs, my technique, our shared vision. Combining classical French methods with local. It's extraordinary. She gestures to her companion's plate, where the summer vegetable tart has been similarly demolished. The flavors, the presentation. It's like you've finally found your voice. Finally found your voice. The words echo as I thank her and head back to the kitchen, where Rose is definitely not arranging herbs according to the precise pattern we discussed. You're doing it again, I say, coming up behind her. Adding artistic flair to your soulless perfection? She doesn't look up from where she's creating what appears to be a wildflower meadow on a plate. Breaking every rule of classical plating. Now she does turn, eyes dancing. Going to ban me from herb delivery? Tempting. I wrap my arms around her waist, propriety be damned. But then who would convince me that edible flowers belong on French cuisine? I have no idea what you're talking about. But she's grinning. Those nasturtiums clearly suggested themselves. Just like that wild mint you insisted we try? The customers love it. She taps my chest. Even if you did look like you were having a heart attack when I first suggested it in your precious sauce. Catherine Wells is here. Her hand still. And she called it extraordinary. Of course she did. Rose turns in my arms. Because it is. Because you finally stopped trying to be some perfect French chef and started being you. With a little help. You did the hard part. She straightens my apron, a gesture that's become as familiar as breathing. I just added some chaos. Speaking of chaos, I say, eyeing her current plating creation, what exactly are you doing to that dish? Creating ambience. She adds a sprig of something that definitely wasn't in my original design. Your way was technically perfect, but this tells a story. She steps back, revealing a plate that somehow manages to look both wild and elegant. About a garden, and the people who tend it, and the way love grows in unexpected. I kiss her, right there in my busy kitchen, tasting of herbs and happiness and home. Chef! Mark's voice breaks through our moment. For more orders for the herb-crusted salmon, 2 tarts, and table 15 wants to know where we source our herbs. Rose laughs against my mouth. Duty calls. Stay. The word slips out before I can overthink it. For service. And after. We could look at that empty space out back, the one we talked about for the garden. Her eyes soften. Always. The rest of the night passes in a blur of orders and herbs and Rose's bright laughter floating above the kitchen chaos. Every plate she touches becomes art, every dish a story. And somehow, miraculously, it works. Classical technique meets garden whimsy, precision dances with chaos, and my restaurant feels alive in a way it never has before. Later, after the last customer has raved about the herbs and Catherine Wells has requested an interview about our revolutionary approach to French cuisine, Rose and I stand in the empty space behind the restaurant. It's perfect for a garden, she says, already sketching plans in her notebook. We could start with herbs, maybe add some seasonal vegetables. Though you'll have to accept that some things won't grow in perfect rows. Like someone I know who refuses to arrange garnishes properly? She bumps my shoulder. Like someone I know who's learning that imperfection can be beautiful. I wrap my arms around her from behind, breathing in the scent of herbs and flowers and her. My grandmother would have liked you. She always said her garden was the heart of her cafe. Tell me about it. She settles back against my chest. About her garden, her cafe. Everything. So I do. I tell her about summer mornings helping my grandmother harvest herbs, about the way she let volunteers grow wherever they sprouted, about how her cafe became the heart of the community. That's what you're building here, Rose says softly. Not just a restaurant, but a place where people feel welcomed. Connected. We're building, I correct her. I couldn't have done this alone. She turns in my arms, reaching up to brush flour from my cheek. Look at you, admitting you need help without prompting. I'm so proud. Impossible woman. You're impossible woman. Yes. I press my forehead to hers, surrounded by possibilities, by dreams we're reimagining together. Mine. Around us, the night air carries the scent of herbs from her basket, rosemary, thyme, that wild mint I pretend to hate. Tomorrow, we'll start planning our own garden, another piece of the vision we're growing together. And for the first time, I truly understand what my grandmother meant about restaurants needing heart as much as technique. About how love, like gardens, thrives best when we let it grow freely, reaching always toward the light.
Chapter 7. Rose. They want to buy Maison Hartman. Daniel's words hang in the morning air of the community center garden, where I've been peacefully tending the herb beds. Had been, until he arrived looking like he hadn't slept, clutching a thick envelope. Buy it? My hand still in the soil. Who? Le Petit. The restaurant group from Charlotte. He runs a hand through his already disheveled hair. They've been watching since Catherine Wells' review. Said my innovative approach to classical French cuisine is exactly what they're looking for. Something cold settles in my stomach. Looking for? They're offering me head chef position at their new flagship restaurant. Now the words tumble out, fast and excited. Creative control over the menu, state-of-the-art kitchen, connection to local suppliers. In Charlotte. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Yes, but he finally seems to notice my stillness. Rose? Isn't this amazing? I stare at my dirt-covered hands, trying to ground myself. When would you leave? They want an answer by next week. If I accept, they'd want me to start in. He stops. Why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like I suggested burning down the garden. I'm not, but I am. I can feel myself pulling back, walls rising that I thought I'd left behind. It's sudden. He crouches beside me, envelope crumpling in his grip. This is what I've been working for. Everything we've been working for. The recognition, the opportunity to really show what I can do. What about what you're already doing? The words escape before I can stop them. The cooking classes, the community dinners, the relationships you've built here. Those were temporary solutions. He says it dismissively, like the past months meant nothing. Like we meant nothing. To keep the restaurant afloat until something better came along. The cold in my stomach spreads. Temporary. Rose? No, it's fine. I stand abruptly, needing space. I understand. This is your dream. Our dream. He reaches for my hand, but I step back. You could come with me. Charlotte has amazing gardens, community projects. Stop. My voice cracks. Just stop. What's wrong? I thought you'd be happy for me. Happy? I laugh, and it sounds all wrong. You're talking about leaving everything we'd built here like it was just some stepping stone. Like none of it mattered. His expression hardens. That's not fair. Isn't it? Temporary solutions? Is that what I was too? A convenient source of herbs until something better came along? Now you're being ridiculous. He stands, jaw tight. This is a huge opportunity. I thought of all people, you'd understand. Understand what? Throwing away genuine connections for corporate success? The words taste bitter. Been there, done that, remember? This is different. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly the same. Big city, bigger pressures, empty promises of creative control. You're just scared. His voice turns sharp. Scared to leave your safe little garden and actually take a risk. The accusation hits like a physical blow. And you're just running away. The minute things get real, the minute you have to be vulnerable. I'm trying to build something. To be more than just some small-town chef serving comfort food. Right, because that's beneath you now. My hands shake as I gather my gardening tools. Because that would mean actually belonging somewhere. Actually letting people in. Rose? No. I step back again, fighting tears. Go. Take your big opportunity. Prove whatever it is you need to prove. Just don't pretend this was ever about us. You don't believe in me. He says it quietly, but the hurt in his voice cuts deep. After everything, you still think I'm just chasing perfection. No. I meet his eyes, letting him see my own pain. I think you're running from happiness because it doesn't fit your perfect plan. He stares at me for a long moment, storm clouds gathering in his eyes. Then he turns and walks away, leaving me alone in the garden I thought we were growing together. I sink to my knees beside the herbs we've tended, the plants we've nurtured. Somewhere, a bee hums among the lavender. The sound reminds me of quiet mornings in his kitchen, of laughter and possibility and dreams I was fool enough to believe in. Well, I tell the unresponsive plants, at least you're exactly what you seem to be. But the herbs offer no comfort, and my mother's song about love growing in unexpected places feels like ash in my throat. I told him to go. My voice breaks as I stare into the tea hazel pressed into my hands. But today even its familiar warmth can't comfort me. I practically pushed him away. Hazel settles into her chair at the community center's front desk, where I've been hiding since my argument with Daniel. Did you mean it? I don't know. The tea ripples as my hands shake. He called everything we built temporary. Like none of it mattered. Ah. Hazel's knowing gaze sees right through me, just like always. And that scared you. Of course it scared me. The words burst out. I left my whole life behind because I lost myself trying to be what everyone else needed. And now he wants me to do it again, to just pack up and follow his dream like mine doesn't matter. Is that what he asked? I pause, remembering his words through the haze of panic they'd triggered. He said I could come with him. That Charlotte has gardens and community projects. So he wanted to include you in his future. By having me uproot my entire life. Again. But even as I say it, something shifts in my chest. I didn't even let him finish, did I? I just reacted. Sometimes, Hazel says gently, we're so busy protecting ourselves from past hurts that we don't see we're creating new ones. The truth of her words settles like stones in my stomach. I told him he was running away. That he was afraid of happiness. I press my palms against my eyes. But I'm the one who ran, aren't I? The minute he suggested change, I shut down. Change is scary, Hazel agrees. Especially when you've been burned before. But Rose. She reaches across the desk to touch my hand. Being afraid of losing yourself doesn't mean you have to lose everyone else. I need to talk to him. The realization hits hard. I need to explain. Then go. She squeezes my fingers. Before fear has a chance to talk you out of it. I find him at Maison Hartman, alone in the kitchen, aggressively chopping herbs with the precise, measured movements that used to drive me crazy. Now they just make my heart ache. Daniel? His knife stills, but he doesn't look up. We're closed. I know. I step closer, trying to bridge the ocean of hurt between us. I needed to say something. I think you said plenty this morning. His voice is carefully neutral, reminding me of when we first met. Before garden songs and cooking classes and all the ways he learned to let his walls down. I was wrong. The words catch in my throat. I was scared, and I lashed out, and I'm sorry. Now he does look up, but his eyes are guarded. Scared of what? That I might actually succeed? Scared of losing myself in someone else's dream again. I wrap my arms around myself. Scared of how much it would hurt to watch you choose ambition over happiness. Over me, I don't say. Over everything we've built here. You think I don't know about fear? He sets down his knife with precise control. You think it's easy for me to consider leaving? To admit that maybe I need something more? No, You said I was running away. His laugh holds no warmth. But you're the one who couldn't even discuss the possibility of change without shutting down completely. I know. I take another step forward. That's why I'm here. To tell you that I do believe in you. That I want to talk about this properly, about all the possibilities, about. I have prep to do. He turns away, shoulders rigid. And you have a garden to tend. The dismissal hits like frost on tender plants. Daniel, please. Just go, Rose. His voice cracks slightly. Before we say something else we can't take back. I stand there for a moment longer, remembering all the times this kitchen had felt like home. All the moments we'd shared between herbs and heat and possibility. For what it's worth, I whisper, you were never temporary to me. He doesn't respond, and I slip away, leaving him to his careful knife work and measured movements. Outside, the evening air carries the scent of herbs from the community garden, but for the first time since I can remember, their sweetness brings no comfort.
Chapter 8. Daniel. The key to successful transplanting, Rose tells her workshop participants, is making sure the roots have room to. She stops as I step into the community center's garden, carrying a covered dish that took me 3 tries to get right. Not because of technique. That part's always been easy. But because this time, every ingredient, every herb, every decision had to be perfect. Not my old version of perfect. Her version. Chef Hartman? Linda peers around Rose. Are you here for the gardening workshop? Actually, I say, meeting Rose's startled gaze. I'm here to make an announcement. and to share something I made. If that's okay? Rose's hands tighten around her trowel. Daniel. Please. I've rehearsed this speech a dozen times, but seeing her here, surrounded by the garden she loves, all my careful words scattered like seeds in the wind. I sold the restaurant. Gasps ripple through the small crowd. Rose goes very still. Not to Le Petit, I add quickly. To Mark, my sous chef. His family's been farming here for generations, and they're investing in his vision to turn it into a true farm-to-table restaurant. He'll make it his own place, building something authentic to his roots. I don't understand. Rose's voice wavers. You said this was your dream. I thought it was. I stepped closer, ignoring our audience. I spent so long trying to be this perfect French chef, following all the rules, that I forgot why I fell in love with cooking in the first place. Hope flickers in her eyes. Why did you? Because of my grandmother's garden. The truth feels like coming home. Because of summer mornings helping her harvest herbs for her cafe. Because cooking wasn't about perfection. It was about connection. About nurturing something real. I uncover the dish, revealing a rustic galette bursting with vegetables and herbs from her garden. Everything in here came from this garden. From what we've grown together. Daniel. She takes a half step forward. I was so busy chasing some idea of success that I almost missed what was growing right here. The words tumble out now, unplanned and honest. The cooking classes, the community dinners, watching people discover the joy of creating something with their own hands. That's the dream I want. With you. Someone in the crowd sniffs. Probably Linda. But your restaurant, Rose whispers. Everything you've worked for. I'm not giving up cooking. I take a deep breath. I talk to the community center board. They're expanding the teaching kitchen program, looking for someone to run culinary education full-time. Teaching, community outreach, working with local gardens. Understanding dawns in her eyes. You're staying. If you'll have me. I close the distance between us. I know I hurt you. No, I made you doubt everything we built. But Rose. I touch her cheek, and she leans into my palm. Nothing about us was ever temporary. The restaurant was your life, she says softly. You're my life. The words feel like finally coming up for air. You and your chaos and your volunteer tomatoes and the way you make everything better just by being you. A tear slips down her cheek. I'm still scared sometimes. Of losing myself. I know. I brush away the tear with my thumb. But maybe we can be scared together? Figure it out as we grow? Like volunteer tomatoes? A smile tugs at her lips. Exactly like volunteer tomatoes. I rest my forehead against hers. I love you, Rose Delaney. Your chaos, your sunshine, your impossible way of making everything more beautiful. She kisses me, tasting of tears and joy and possibility. The garden crowd erupts in applause and what sounds suspiciously like Hazel saying finally. I love you too, Rose whispers against my lips. Even when you're being perfectly grumpy. I'm never grumpy. She laughs, bright and free. You absolutely are. But you're my grumpy chef. Speaking of chef. I gesture to the galette. I used your wild mint. And I may have scattered the herbs instead of arranging them precisely. Her eyes light up. Really? Don't get used to it. But we both know that's a lie. Because watching her cut into the galette, surrounded by the garden we'll tend together, I realize I've never felt more perfectly, wonderfully, chaotically at home. You're doing it again, Rose says, watching me carefully measure the spacing between herb seedlings. Being precise? Being adorably fussy. She tucks a wayward strand of auburn hair behind her ear, leaving a smudge of dirt on her cheek. They'll grow how they want to grow, you know. We're creating a new herb bed under the garden archway, celebrating my first official day as the community center's culinary program director. The morning sun catches in Rose's hair, turning it to flame, and my fingers itch to brush away that smudge of soil. Some of us prefer not to have mint taking over the entire bed, I say. Mint is social. She nestles a seedling into the soil with gentle fingers. It likes to spread joy. It likes to spread chaos. Exactly. Her smile could outshine the sun. Like someone else I know who's corrupted your perfect herb arrangements. I catch her hand before she can plant the next seedling completely crooked. I seem to remember someone else corrupting my perfect French menu first. She leans into me, soil-covered fingers finding my shirt. And look how well that turned out. The garden hums with late summer life. There are bees investigating the lavender, birds singing in the nearby trees, and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Everything is growing exactly as it should, perfectly imperfect. I had lunch with Mark yesterday, I tell her, watching as she arranges flowers between the herbs, creating patterns only she can see. He's thinking of calling the restaurant route to plate. That's perfect. She glances up. Are you okay with that? I am. The truth of it settles warm in my chest. Maison Hartman was never really mine. Not the way this is. This? The teaching kitchen. The garden. I pull her closer, not caring about the dirt we're both covered in. You. Her eyes soften. Even with all my chaos? Especially with your chaos. I brush my thumb across the soil on her cheek. You taught me that sometimes the sweetest things grow wild. Look who's getting poetic. But her voice catches. Next thing you know, you'll be singing my garden song. Don't push it. She laughs, winding her arms around my neck. Above us, the garden archway curves like a gateway to something new, something we're growing together. Light filters through the climbing roses Rose insisted would look beautiful there, casting patterns across her upturned face. I love you, she whispers. My perfectly imperfect chef. I kiss her. Rose tastes of sunshine and possibilities and home. She melts into me, soft and warm and real, and I think about all the ways love grows, in careful gardens and wild spaces, in teaching kitchens and quiet moments, in hearts brave enough to reach toward the light. When we part, her eyes are bright with joy. We should finish planting. Probably. But I keep hold of her hand, marveling at how perfectly it fits in mine. Though I noticed you trying to sneak that volunteer tomato in with the basil. It wanted to be there. Of course it did. She rises on her toes to kiss me again, quick and sweet. Just wait until you see where the mint ends up. Impossible woman. You're impossible woman. Always, I murmur against her lips, and the word feels like a promise. Like roots sinking deep into fertile soil, like seeds carried on summer winds, like love growing exactly where and how it should. Together, we turn back to our planting, and I find myself humming her mother's song about gardens growing in unexpected places. Rose's smile blooms brighter than any flower, and I realize that sometimes the sweetest dreams aren't the ones we carefully plan. They're the ones that grow wild in our hearts, nurtured by love and tended with joy, reaching always toward tomorrow's light.
Epilogue. Rose. Juniper Falls, 1 year later. Is that basil I smell? Daniel appears behind me as I arrange the display herbs for our open house, his arms sliding around my waist. From the community garden? From our garden, I correct, leaning back against him. The distinction still makes me smile. It's our garden, our teaching kitchen, and our shared dreams slowly blooming into reality. The community center hums with life around us. Linda leads a group through proper transplanting techniques while George demonstrates his now perfect pie crust in the teaching kitchen. Through the open windows, I can hear children's laughter from the playground and the distant sound of choir practice floating from the east wing. Speaking of our garden, Daniel produces a small bouquet from behind his back, herbs and flowers woven together in that precise yet wild way that's become his signature. I thought the welcome table needed something special. You picked flowers? I turn in his arms, delighted. Voluntarily? I arranged them too. He tries for dignified, but his eyes sparkle. Though I did let that volunteer mint have its way with the design. Will wonders never cease? I breathe in the bouquet's fresh scent. Next thing you know, you'll be letting the tomatoes grow wherever they want. Let's not get carried away. The late afternoon sun streams through the windows, turning everything golden. String lights twinkle above the garden paths, ready for evening visitors. In the teaching kitchen, Mark stops by with produce from his family's farm, chatting easily with the cooking class participants. Did you ever think, I ask, arranging the bouquet in a mason jar, when you stormed into my garden demanding herbs, that we'd end up here? I did not storm, he stops at my raised eyebrow. Fine. I might have been slightly intense. Slightly? His response is cut off by a swell of music from down the hall. Young voices blend in harmony, led by a gentle alto guiding them through the rough spots. Maddie's really got them sounding good, Daniel observes. We drift toward the sound, peeking through the rehearsal room's window. Maddie Field stands before her middle school choir, her dark curls escaping their clip as she guides her students with patient enthusiasm. Better, she calls over the music. Remember to support from your diaphragm, just like we practiced. The song ends, and Maddie's shoulders sag slightly as she dismisses the kids for a break. Something in her expression tugs at my heart. Maddie? I catch her as she steps into the hall. Join us for some refreshments? Daniel made those herb scones you love. She hesitates, then manages a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Thanks, but I should review the program for the charity concert. Again. Now that our headliner's cancelled. What about Alex? The name slips out before I can stop it. Maddie freezes. Alex? Whitaker, I clarify, though we all know who I mean. He's back in town, isn't he? And he has an amazing voice. I couldn't. But something flickers in her expression. We haven't, it's been years. I feel Daniel's knowing smile without looking at him. Sometimes years don't matter as much as we think they do. Right, chef? Especially, he adds, when the timing is finally right. Maddie glances between us, cheeks flushing. I'll think about it, she mumbles, then escapes back to her choir room. That was subtle, Daniel murmurs as we head back to the garden. Like you storming and demanding herbs was subtle? He tugs me under the archway, where new roses climb toward the evening sky. I prefer to think of it as fate. Fate? I wind my arms around his neck. Not precise planning? Some things, he says softly, are better left to grow wild. As he kisses me, I hear Maddie's choir starting up again, their voices carrying into the garden like a promise. Above us, fairy lights twinkle like stars, and somewhere in the distance, a new story begins to bloom. But right here, in this moment, wrapped in Daniel's arms with the scent of herbs and possibilities surrounding us, I know that love grows exactly how and where it should, in gardens and kitchens, in music and memories, in hearts brave enough to let it flourish. The end. This has been Garden Gate Wishes. Written by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.